Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. We're going to do chapter 43 and 44 today, because I'm really excited to get into Exodus. We're going to see here that, Jacob has to reveal who he is to his brothers and reveal the prophecy and all that kind of thing. But without any further ado, let's jump into the action. Genesis chapter 43. But the famine in the land was severe, and when they had eaten up the rations which they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Go again and procure some food for us." But Judah said to him, "The man warned us, 'Do not let me see your faces, unless your brother is with you. And if you let our brother go with us, we will go down and procure food for you. But if you will not let him go, we will not go down, for the man said to us, 'Do not let me see your faces until your brother is with you.'" And Israel said, "Why did you serve me so ill as to tell the man that you had another brother?" They replied, "But the man kept asking about us and our family, saying, 'Is your father still living? Have you another brother?' And we answered him accordingly. How were we to know that he would say, 'Bring your brother here'?" Then Judah said to his father Israel, "Send the boy in my care, and let us be on our way, that we may live and not die, you and we and our children. I myself will be surety for him. You may hold me responsible if I do not bring him back to you and set him before you. I shall stand guilty for it before you forever, for we could have been back there and back twice if we had not dawdled." Then their father Israel said to them, "If it must be so, do this. Take some of the choice products of the land in your baggage, and carry them down as a gift for the man, some balm and some honey, gum, laudanum, pistachio nuts, and almonds. And take with you double the money, carrying back with you the money that was replaced in the mouth of your bag. Perhaps it was a mistake. Take your brother too, and go back at once to the man. And may El Shaddai dispose the man to mercy towards you, that he may release your older brother as well as Benjamin. For me, if I am to be bereaved, I shall be bereaved." So the men took that gift, and they took with them double the money as well as Benjamin. They made their way down to Egypt, where they presented themselves to Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to his house steward, "Take the men into the house, slaughter and prepare an animal, for the men will dine with me at noon." The man did as Joseph said, and he brought the men into Joseph's house. But the men, being frightened at being brought into Joseph's house, "It must be," they thought, "that because of the money replaced in our bags the first time that we have been brought inside, so as a pretext to attack us and seize us as slaves with our pack animals." So they went up to Joseph's house steward and spoke with him at the entrance of the house. "If you please, my lord," they said, "we came down once more to procure food. But when we arrived at the night encampment, we opened our bags. There was each one's money in the mouth of his bag, our money in full. So we have brought it back with us. And we have brought down with us other money to procure food. We do not know who put the money in our bags." He replied, "All is well with you. Do not be afraid. Your God, the God of your father, must have put the treasure in your bags for you. I got the payment." And he brought Simeon out to them. Then the men brought the men into to Joseph's house. He gave them water to bathe their feet, and he provided feed for their asses. They laid out their gifts to await Joseph's arrival at noon, for they had heard that they were to dine there. When Joseph came home, they presented to him the gifts that they had brought with him to the house, bowing low before him to the ground. He greeted them, and he said, "How is your aged father of whom you spoke? Is he in good health?" They replied, "It is well with your servant and our father. He is still in good health." And they bowed and made obeisance. Looking about, he saw his brother Joseph, his mother's son, and asked, "Is this your youngest brother of whom you spoke to me?" And he went on, "May God be gracious to you, my boy." With that, Joseph hurried out, for he was overcome with feeling towards his brother, and he was on his verge of tears. He went into a room and wept there. He washed his face, reappeared, and now in control of himself, gave the order, serve the meal. They served him by himself and them by themselves, and the Egyptians who ate with them by themselves. For the Egyptians could not dine with the Hebrews, since that would be abhorrent to the Egyptians. As they were seated by his direction, from the oldest of the order of seniority to the youngest in the order of the youth, the men looked at each other in astonishment. Portions were served them from his table, but Benjamin's portion was several times that of anyone else, and they drank their fill with him. So, Joseph tells them he got his payment and releases their brother, Simeon. It doesn't tell us what sort of a state Simeon is in, but we can assume that Joseph was just trying to make him sweat. The brothers obviously have dawdled because they couldn't convince their father to let them take Benjamin back, so we can assume at least a couple months have passed. Simeon probably wasn't in for a rough time, but probably had some pretty rough things implied to him. No doubt, Joseph picked up some tricks while he was earning his way up from being a slave. But you don't have to touch somebody to scare them, so I'm not saying that Joseph did anything to Simeon, but just being in his care. The difference is they don't mention he was disheveled or anything. He's allowed Simeon to keep from being obviously harmed. So, 1 point in Joseph's favor. We get into the more problematic thing about Jacob trying to maintain this deception, because the Israelites, the sons of Israel, have to eat together. Joseph eats by himself, and the Egyptians, who are there, for some reason, eat by themselves because it's abhorrent for them to eat with the Israelites. Remember what I said about last chapter, about it's kind of like being around an atheist when you're a believer? Well, for them, it would be an insult to their gods for them to sit down with these people who are espousing this God that doesn't really exist anywhere that they can point to. It's an advanced concept. I'm not saying the Egyptians couldn't understand philosophy, but you're saying none of our gods exist? It takes another 1,000 or so years, well, maybe even 2,000, for that to really catch on. No matter what, we got ourselves a very interesting chapter here. Anyway, I'm going to cut it off there so we can get into chapter 45. Where are we? No, sorry, chapter 44? Yeah, here. Sorry, I skipped a page ahead. So, chapter 44. Then he instructed his house steward as follows: fill the men's bags with food, as much as they can carry, and put each one's money in the mouth of his bag. Put my silver goblet in the mouth of the bag of the youngest one, together with money for his rations. And he did as Joseph told him. With the first light of morning, the men set off with their packs animals. They had just left the city and had not gone far when Joseph said to his steward, up after the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, why did you repay good with evil? It is the very one from which my master drinks and which he uses for divination. It was a wicked thing for you to do. He overtook them and spoke these words to them, and they said to him, why does my lord say such things? Far be it from your servants to do anything of the kind. Here we brought back to you from the land of Canaan the money we found in the mouths of our bags. How then could we have stolen any silver or gold from your master's house? Whichever of our servants is found with it shall die. The rest, moreover, shall become slaves to my lord. He replied, although what you are proposing is right, the one whom it is found shall be the slave. The rest of you shall go free. So each one hastened to lower his bag to the ground, and each one opened his bag. He searched, beginning with the oldest and ending with the youngest, and the goblet turned up in Benjamin's bag. At this they rent their clothes. Each reloaded his pack animal as they returned to the city. When Judah and his brothers re-entered the house of Joseph, who was still there, they threw themselves on the ground before him. Joseph said to them, what is this deed which you have done? Do you not know that a man like me practices divination? Judah replied, What can we say to my lord? How can we plead? How can we prove our innocence? God has uncovered the crime of your servants. Here we are then, slaves of my lord. The rest of us as much as he who is in possession of the goblet was found. But he replied, Far be it from me to act thus. Only he in whose possession the goblet shall be found will be my slave. The rest of you go back in peace to your father. Then Judah went up to him and said, Please, my lord, let your servant appeal to my lord. And do not be impatient with your servant, you who are the equal of Pharaoh. My lord asked his servants, Have you a father or another brother? We told my lord, We have an old father, and there is a child of his old age, the youngest. His full brother is dead, so that he alone is left of his mother, but his father dotes on him. Then you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, that he may set eyes on him. We said to my lord, The boy cannot leave his father. If we were to leave him, our father would die. But you said to your servants, Unless your brother comes down with you, do not let me see your faces. When we came back to your servant, my father, we requested my lord's words to him. Later our father said, Go back and procure some food for us. We answered, We cannot go down. Only if our youngest brother is with us can we go down, for we may not show our faces to the man unless our youngest brother is with us. Your servant my father said to us, As you know, my wife bore me 2 sons, but one is gone from me. And I said, Alas, he was torn by a beast, and I have not seen him since. If you take this one from me too, and he meets with disaster, you will send my white head down to Sheol in sorrow. Now if I come to your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, since his own life is so bound up with his, when he sees that the boy is not with us, he will die, and your servants will send the white head of your servant, our father, down to Sheol in grief. Now your servant has pledged himself for the boy to my father, saying, If I do not bring him back to you, I shall stand guilty before my father forever. Therefore, please, let your servant remain as a slave to my lord instead of the boy, and let the boy go back to his brothers. For how can I go back to my father unless the boy is with me? Let me not be witness to the woe that would overtake my father. So, Joseph is still playing tricks here. He's also changed his tune a little bit. He's got a silver goblet for divination. Divination is seeing the future. So, he has kind of gone native here. And he's using the customs of the Egyptians to try and make further predictions. Not wholly unreasonable, but the same token, not really great for one of the original Israelites, the 12 tribes of Israel. Well, actually, the 11 and the 2 half tribes, but that's a little far in the future. And he uses this to entrap his youngest brother. Now, why would he do this? Well, this is just a suggestion, he got along with his younger brother. After all, they were somewhat closer in age than he was to his older brothers. They were both favored by their father, and he probably sent out the silver goblet so that he could keep Benjamin with him and make sure that his brothers didn't pull any funny business. This could have been a big plan by Joseph all along. Remember, even though Simeon was the one who suggested killing himself, he's surprised when Judah comes forward and says, Hey, I guaranteed this guy's safety. And that shows Joseph, his brothers have learned to look out for one another, all of them. It's not just Leah's children versus Rachel's children. They're a family now. This is Joseph's final little test. And he's surprised by the fact that his brother would stand up like that. And again, this is why I say Judah was up for selling him rather than letting him be killed. Because his brothers weren't going to sit around and wait for Reuben to come back with their father. They wanted to do away with Joseph. But here, Joseph is seeing, okay, there's at least some hope for the future for us. I'm willing to forgive. We'll see more of that forgiveness later. One thing I got to comment on, it's frustrating to read, I'm sure it's frustrating to listen, the way that they repeat things. Like, it's not even cyclical. It's within a matter of a couple sentences. You know what? It's intended to be poetic, and it happens in a lot of other literature. So yes, I know it's like the genealogy list. It's frustrating. You kind of like get to the good part, but it was written this way for a very good reason. So bear with me. I don't like reading it. You don't like listening to it, but the same token, it's really not that long. It's a couple seconds when everything is said and done. So we're all in this together. So with that, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please hit like, share, and subscribe. Buy one of the books down below. It really helps the show out, helps me out. If you'd like to help me keep producing content like this, then that's the best way to do it. But most importantly, we hope you have a fantastic day.